found myself somewhere between here and a place I didn't know. Of course, I did know this place. It was Etretat, a city on the Normandy coast, but to me it was the edge of the world. That's where I, that waltzing character there, found myself at the end of my journey. I had traveled afar from a distant land, but for you and myself, my journey began weeks ago. Far, far away from here, I was to embark on an adventure across Europe, to see cities, people, food of all likes, and most importantly, their cathedrals of Gothic delight. By its end, I would be older, wiser, and somehow in possession of a small fortune. But the true wealth came in what I saw and what I am to tell of this Gothic Fantasia. Our story starts upon my arrival in France. I had settled myself in a small apartment nestled along the Seine, in the heart of art and beauty, the city of Paris. Here I saw Europe for the first time, and in this unexpected place I found myself at every turn full of beauty, art, and plenty of food. While it may have been unusual to formalize myself with the European ways, I was sure in my heart to find what I was looking for here. They always do say Paris is full of wonder and beauty, and amongst every corner and turn I would find it. Bonjour, we are now in Paris, and it's not what I expected. It's quite early in the morning, it's about 5:50, and we're going to have a little Peru of the city, and I guess figure out our bearings from there, but who knows? It's a bit exciting, isn't it? The second day, I would make my way into the very heart of Paris, the legendary Ile de la Cité.
So we're walking to Notre Dame Cathedral, which is in the distance over there, and it is freezing out here.
And freezing as it may be, the sight of Notre Dame with my own eyes brought warmth to my soul. Built in the early 12th century, and taking over some 200 years to build, I was faced with France's finest and most beautiful building. And even after being ravaged by fire some years prior, it stood more glorious than ever before. Being the first true Gothic cathedral I would see whilst here, I was enamored by its size and features. Stained glass windows, high vaulted ceilings, colossal buttresses that dwarfed anyone in their presence, and the age of history so old I couldn't begin to comprehend it. To know kings and queens of France were once crowned in these very halls I stood in, and being inside was a divine splendor that seemed to elevate the consciousness to a realm not bound to this earthly world. An architectural marvel of Gothic ingenuity, first of its very kind, one that inspired legends of hunchback bell ringers and became the symbolic heart for the city it resides in. Outside, within the city, I began to wander through the cobbled pathways, across the bridges, and admiring all the styles of France. Buildings dressed from Gothic and Baroque to the overwhelming grandeur of the Haussmann period. And as I felt its scale, its busy streets, congested traffic, and crowds of people lining up all over the place, I couldn't help but wonder, how the devil was I going to get out of here? I'd have to think of a way to escape Paris, past all the tourists, traffic, and crowds. I would have to navigate myself through the infamous spiral of the Parisian metro system.
Please mind the gap between the train and the platform. Cuidado con el espacio entre el vagón y el andén.
in the tranquility outside of Paris, I would now find myself inside a palace truly fit for a king. Quiet streets, galleries of paintings whose eyes followed your very own. Grounds of misty oaks that rustled softly in the wind. It was no mistake. I was no longer in Paris, but a place of more royal residency. I was now in Versailles. The air felt golden, as if it breathed its own majesty. Galleries of such decadence flanked what was once a small hunting lodge for the kings of France, now made into a single chateau of the highest exuberance. Knowing that the likes of Marie Antoinette and Louis XIV once too walked upon these parakeet floors and gazed beyond its walls at the gardens that almost seemed endless. Beyond lakes of swans dancing in flight, with the cold haze of blue gently resting atop the waters. No corner left dull, no detail unfurnished from gold. The grandeur of Versailles was not bound to its walls, but seemed to extend to the grounds themselves. Spaces so large it was as if you were walking amongst halls fit for giants. Statues would gaze upon its own splendor, as if they too saw its beauty themselves. For some, you could wander endlessly through the hundreds of rooms and galleries, and as I marveled at what wonders of art were placed on these walls, couldn't help but think of all the people this place had seen before me. To know that declarations to wars ended, kings and queens and even emperors once would have eaten here and dressed, and after wandering nearly all day in the highest luxury one could possibly bestow upon themselves, I would retreat to my quiet room, not as nice, but just enough for myself. So, now in Versailles, it is about 6 degrees at 9 o'clock already in the morning. Yesterday we explored the chateau, and today's agenda will be exploring some of the more preliminary areas around it, but most importantly, going to our next destination, which happens to be about 500 kilometers away from Paris. So, without further ado, let's get on with that. Nestled someplace between the edge of Germany and France, in the heart of the Alsace, is a place called Strasbourg, a quiet little town which held a crown jewel of high Gothic design, Strasbourg Cathedral. lavishly decorated high Gothic and Romanesque church, and whilst dark inside, had some of the most intricate stained glass windows I had ever seen. Murals and saints watched from above, whilst adherents walked amongst the candlelit nave, and there were no shortage of statues to peer at you from the walls above. And even outside, its diaphanous facade, so delicate as if it was lace, gave such wonder to the building. The chill of wind blew constantly, and although thought of blowing from the mountains and the Swiss Alps, locals told me of an ancient legend of Strasbourg's eerily cold winds. It is said they do not come from anywhere, but from the breath of a horse, endlessly walking around the cathedral, waiting for its unholy master. The legend goes, whilst riding one night, the devil himself wandered into Strasbourg, and there upon the edifice he saw himself carved out of stone. So delighted and impressed, he went in and forgot to come out. Some say he's trapped in the stone, others say he's imprisoned inside the astronomical clock, and even whispers speak of seeing him amidst the pews, and outside waiting for him is his horse, endlessly circling around the cathedral alongside the wind, waiting for his master to return. Not wishing to meet this unholy maker, I continued my travels and found a place unlike anything I had ever seen. I had finally reached Prague, the Gothic heart of Europe, and by far the most beautiful city I had ever seen.
So, now we're in Prague. I don't know if you've seen my apartment already, but it is fully exceptional. I mean, just take a look around. It is absolutely gorgeous. There's a kitchen, there's 2 bedrooms, there's a piano, there's a living space, the dining area, the courtyard. It's truly pretty decadent. So far, Prague has been one of the most beautiful Gothic cities. It is absolutely gorgeous. There's a richness in its culture, its history. The stones have been weathered by time. There's this medieval primordial feel in the city that's absolutely riveting. And I haven't been to any place quite like it. The Volta River, the bridges that span it, the churches is truly a city of 100 spires. Even the smallest church has such just decadence to it that doesn't rival anything back home. There's quite frankly nothing of its like where I'm from.
And even though straight far away from home, I felt oddly familiar here. For some reason or another I couldn't quite understand, Prague felt as if I had known it, something akin to seeing an old friend that was now welcoming me back. There was no shortage of wonder in Prague. The nights would turn into a beautiful blue that gave a chill right down your spine, and winds would pierce your very soul. It was quite charming. It stood silently and radiantly of its delight, every corner littered with charm that made me want to explore the city even more.
first, we have to do a little bit of a fit check, which is what I have right here. This is a 1970s USSR Bekesha. It's lined with sheepskin, it gets incredibly warm, and it is nearly 5 kilograms in weight. Under that, we have a possum scarf that they have in Melbourne, a little pectoral cross, and we have this chain designed by Half-Light. All in all, we got a tie, a shirt, a pants, and a pair of underpants so we don't poop our pants out there. And, well, this is enough to keep you cozy and warm in about -9 degrees whilst being here. But whilst we're in Prague, we have one main objective, to go to St. Vitus Cathedral, which is kept in the stronghold of Prague Castle.
By this time, the snow had settled in, creating a picturesque winter wonderland that only made my journey to the cathedral seem as if it was taken from a page of some romantic writer's novel. I would become lost through the forest of snow, endlessly wandering down towards the hill that the castle was perched atop. It seemed almost surreal, and something of a fantasy to see. The city misty in the morning fog, and Prague Castle towering above the whole place. And as I finally entered into the castle's gate, I was faced with the cathedral itself held within its walls. It was truly a wonder to see. Taking nearly 600 years to complete and being the very resting place of the great kings and queens of Czechia. Inside house tombs of Saint Wenceslaus and Vitus and precious gems of the reliquary. However, I would make a rather bitter discovery.
So, newsflash, I'm at Prague Castle and St. Vitus Cathedral is right behind me, and they close. They close early on Sunday. Would have known, but we won't be going inside that cathedral, so I guess just admire the view, I don't know, so what a bummer.
Disappointing as it may be, at least the exterior still was more than enough to marvel at. With bells tolling as I departed the main square, it was still a pleasurable experience. And as the blue nightly mist engulfed the city, I made my way back. Morning. Today is the, 26th, and it's my last day in Prague. I don't really have much planned today. Visit a few things, a little cat cafe, maybe a few more thrift stores, and so on. Then we make our way to our next location. But I do feel quite melancholic about leaving Prague. There is something so outstandingly beautiful about this city. It's ancient, it's old, it's cold in the winter, yet its heart boils with warmth. There's nothing quite like that to any of the places that I've been. And it's one of those places that you only wish to return to. Never wishing to leave, but knowing you have to. Knowing that one day you will enter its gates once again. Just don't know when. Could be a year from now, it could be 10. That's the beautiful part about it. It's not really a goodbye. More a see you later. And as I prepare For the final leg of my trip, I feel I have gained a decade's worth of knowledge whilst being here. My mind and my soul forever owes a debt to this wonderful city, for the places I've been and the things I've seen. There's truly nothing quite like Prague. Not wishing for my last day to be so bleak, I made my way to the neighbor of Prague Castle in the ancient fort of Vyšehrad. Here, there were no queues, nor that many people, as if time had not touched this medieval site and its beautiful basilica. Inside patterns and murals painted so delicately only added to how divine the space felt. To think a church nearly half the size of its cathedral counterpart could be so beautiful was a magnificent sight to behold. It was one of the finest beauties Prague had showed me. I don't know why I enjoyed Prague so much. It was unlike any other city I ever saw. Then again, there wasn't many cities I ever saw that was quite like this one. My last day was somber. I spent most of my time sitting in churches and seeing what visitors of the dead were nearby. But there was a quality about it I could never erase from my mind. It was everything and more. It was a beautiful city. And as the night crept in, I made my way down the cobbled stairways, thinking how one day I would see this city again. In some distant future, I would smile and say hello to my old friend Prague once more. I would wake to the sight of snowy plains early next morning. By this time I was halfway across Germany and approaching, arguably, one of the greatest Gothic cathedrals man had ever made. If all the Gothic splendor in the world had to crown one church as the most beautiful, that title, in my opinion, would be held by Cologne Cathedral. A colossal church that dwarfed everything in its presence by 1,000 times over. There was truly nothing like it, and I had dreamed to see this very church as soon as I got here. And I would leave with no bit unseen, no corner unadmired, and it would be my very mission to see it from top to bottom, its ancient wonder and beauty that had seen war and lived to tell the tale. Of course, naturally, inside was its own realm. Cologne was built to be larger than any other cathedral ever constructed, taller than the likes of Notre Dame and grander than that of even Strasbourg. But in order to see this place to its full extent, I would need a little help. Marcus, who directed the cathedral, agreed to show me around, and now underground I uncovered the great foundations that held it upright, chasms that descended as far down into the abyss as the walls rose above up top. The ancient remains of the Basilica Prior lay dormant down here. Above ground, wandering through the narrow triforiums, stained glass windows, I'd seen the light of 1,000 sunrises. As I tried to keep a haste pace with my guide, I couldn't help but stare in awe. And while medieval interpretations of this ancient craft are more prevalent, its modern counterpart is still quite a convivial replacement to the grand south transept window, lost in the bombing of Cologne during World War II. And whilst bombs and the wrath of war, both modern and old, have all been seen during the life of Cologne, it still to this day safeguards the very holy relic the cathedral was built upon, the shrine of the three wise kings. Said to be the very three magi in the presence of the birth of Christ, this is one of the most holiest and sacred relics in all of Christendom. First originally sent from the great city of Constantinople by Helena, mother of Constantine, who then would send them to Milan, and for nearly half a century it would remain until it was finally taken by Reinald of Nassau to the city of Cologne as a crown jewel for the cathedral. There, this very church would be built, and their bodies wrapped in silk, scented in frankincense and myrrh, and entombed in a case of gold. To be in its presence was unlike anything I had ever seen. A whole cathedral built around its safeguard, designed by the architect Meister Gerhard, whom many legends suspect he traded his soul for plans to design such a cathedral, fell to his eventual death whilst building it. And for nearly 500 years, the great front facade drawn in the 14th century was lost, only to be found hidden inside of an attic. There was a great deal of beauty inside the cathedral, but one of its many wonders was one of its three organs, the one called the bird nest organ. Dangled from steel wire cables held up from the clerestory roof, Marcus assured me it was very safe, but you couldn't help but feel a bit weary all the way up there.
To sit here in the swallows.
I could imagine, yeah.
You have to
you climb up and it's pretty chilly up there.
Steel cables.
Yeah.
You're not very relaxed here.
And since I had already mastered my fear of heights and barely managing to keep up with my guide, it would be best to continue my journey outside, atop the cathedral's roof. Here, in the cold mist some several stories above the ground, was a spider's web of flying buttresses and columns that kept the cathedral upright. They had stood their ground for the better part of 7 centuries, and showed marks of their age, with a subtle moss that grew on them. Marks of an older time etched into the stone. And if my fear of heights wasn't already be tested, I would continue my climb up atop the spires, which would certainly be a challenge to summit its some 533 steps.
So, I successfully climbed Cologne Cathedral. Oh my god. Was it worth it? I think it was. I can't really see how it looks.
Magnificent sight to finally scale, but thinking I had spent enough time above ground, I decided it'd be best to plant my feet once again. wandering around the old murals and countless windows in a never-ending awe. And after I was done, I was content that I had seen, scaled, and gazed at the most beautiful cathedral on this earth, and my pilgrimage to Cologne was finally over. I captured it all on my camera. Which decided to break inside the cathedral. I had now wandered into a strange little village named Loche, where my relative of some cousin twice removed resided. A simple town that held nothing to the city's prior, yet it was on my way back home, and figuring it'd be best to settle down away in the country for some time, I thought, why not visit? My digicam would come to the aid of filming, capturing this rather forlorn place of chilly residency and icy winds of quiet whispers that almost felt louder than its own townfolk. There was an old abbey, now long forgotten, and like my old camera, now laid broken in pieces. I suppose it didn't matter, given there wasn't too much else to capture, but its eerily calm nature. I suppose one could be content with themselves in a place like this. There was an old farm, a tobacco shed, and what seemed like countless fields of farmland all around, now sort of in the withering stage of the harsh winter. Perhaps it was the gem's rather strange demeanor, or just something in the wind. There was almost the feeling of going back home that made me want to leave. And deciding not to stay here too long, I made my way across France till I finally found myself at the edge of the world. To feel the sun after days of cold winter is a warmth like no other, and Etretat was full of warmth. Waves crashed gently from the sea, birds flew in the wind, and cliffs reminded me of the great cathedrals I had seen. I would walk atop them, gazing at the ocean, and here in this charming little beachside town, my trip was finished. And now my story comes to an end, where it all began. I had walked through the crowds of Paris, inside palaces of kings, in a church so beautiful even the devil was trapped inside, and through a city of 100 spires. I had walked atop one of the most beautiful churches in all of Germany, found myself lost in some misty village, and finally, I could rest here and say I had seen this Fantasia with my own eyes.